welcome back to the Universal Korede. My name is Korede. So this video is a reaction, response, review of a video by, I think his name is James Broad. His channel is called Abroad in Japan. His video is about how difficult is it traveling in Japan without Japanese. I've got to be honest, I don't have any experience with this because when I lived in Japan, I lived there for 6 months. I already spoke a basic level of Japanese, which came in really handy. And then I've made a bunch of friends since then, so I can always rely on my friends to help me get around Japan. So it'll be interesting to see from his perspective what he says and how I can comment, or what things I will comment on from there. So let's see what James has to say, or Abroad in Japan has to say. Let's go.
One of the most intimidating and anxiety-inducing aspects of travelling overseas is the sudden inability to communicate with the world around you. It's probably no surprise then that over the years, one of the most popular questions I've got is how difficult is it to travel Japan without Japanese? Now, in the run-up to the 2020 Olympics, many businesses across Japan are investing all their pocket money in preparing for foreign tourists. But there's no doubt the language barrier exists here in a homogeneous...
I was meant to go to Japan for the 2020 Olympics. I had tickets, and then obviously a certain pandemic happened and I did get a refund on my ticket, and I hadn't bought flights, so that's always a useful thing, but it was still annoying. That was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but who knows when they'll next have the Olympics. Might not be in my lifetime. Disappointing, but hopefully I'll go to Japan for some other sporting event. Maybe I'll go there for some tennis. I don't know what they'll have that I want to go to. Olympics is what I wanted. They probably won't have the World Cup again in my lifetime. So yeah, that's disappointing, but I still have many other reasons to go to Japan, like my friends.
...culture where English speakers can seem few and far between. In this video, we'll discuss the most common problems that will pop up along the way from...
Gotta be honest, Japan is actually very easy to get around even if you don't speak English, particularly Tokyo. Outside of Tokyo, it can be more challenging, but in the major cities, Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, a lot of signs on public transport, trains and so on can be in English as well, or in Romaji, which is Japanese written in English.
Public transport and dining out to some useful communication strategies that will help you break down the language barrier with the locals. But I'll start with two pieces of reassuring news though. The first is that I put a survey out on Twitter asking people if they found Japan difficult to travel without Japanese. There were 3,600 responses, with 2/3 saying they didn't find it difficult. Now that's great. Then again, Twitter questionnaires should always be taken with a pinch of salt, especially as I put out a follow-up survey asking people if they'd rather be a bagel or an Alaskan salmon. Within 47 minutes, 739 people have responded, with 45% of respondents choosing to be a delicious inanimate object over a living creature rich in omega-3. That should have been a clear open and shut case. Obviously the answer was salmon. The second piece of reassuring news is that I've known numerous expats living and working in Japan over the years across various sectors who have lived comfortably in Japan without knowing any Japanese whatsoever. And whilst it's not obviously ideal, it is completely doable. I mean, when I came here without knowing much of the language, I was often a little bit anxious in various situations that the locals might get angry at me when they found out that I lived here without knowing any of the language really. After all, I'd had travel experiences in some countries in the past where the locals had lost their temper or snapped at me for my inability to communicate in their language. Obviously, I'm not going to name any names. France. But not once in my time here has anybody got angry at me or lost their cool for my inability to communicate. On the contrary, Japanese people are very understanding and fully aware that Japanese is almost exclusively spoken within Japan, and it is quite difficult and it takes a long time to learn. Thus, if you do make an effort and show you know some Japanese, you'll instantly win favour with the locals because you'll be in the minority of foreign travellers who can speak and use a little bit of Japanese. Better still though, English is almost everywhere these days, from restaurant menus and road signs to trendy t-shirts. Mind you, the English might not always be native
level English, no, not at all.
But it gets
exactly
done. Take this notebook that I bought the other day. It's covered in trendy, cool English expressions on the front here, like relax time and keep calm and pleasing smell. And yet the thing that gives it away that it might not have been proofread or written by a native speaker is the big word at the top where it just says dribble. Dribble. It's not typically the sort of thing you'd find on a native
at all. Dribble.
I don't know why they thought that would enhance the sales of the notebook, but nonetheless, it's English.
Target audience is clearly Japanese people.
So, having just landed in Japan, typically at Haneda Airport or Narita or Kansai International, you'll find getting out of the airport and into the city a fairly easy, seamless process. Everything is wonderfully signed.
Especially if you just get Uber or a taxi. But yeah, of course, most people may get a train. But again, it's very simple to do.
But soon after arriving at the city, problems might arise at one of the smaller stations when you look up at the map to find it is exclusively written in kanji characters. Now perhaps you'd think, oh no problem, I'll just use the ticket machine and hit the English button and type in the name of the station. Haha, I'm so brilliant. But wait, because you're not. For local trains and the underground, rather than typing in the name of the station, you need to know the ticket price of the place you're going. And to find out the cost...
Man, just get a one-day pass. Problem solved. If you can afford it. But you shouldn't go to Japan if you can't afford a one-day pass when you first arrive. Please don't.
Of that ticket, you need the map that you can't read. Obviously, you can get around this easily by asking a member of staff. As long as you mutter the name of the station or the general direction of where you want to go, no problem. But my favourite option is just to get a Suica card or a Passmore card, which you top up with a few thousand yen. I can't tell you the cost of going anywhere in Japan or Tokyo just because I use this. So rather than knowing the cost of your ticket price, just keep this filled up with a few thousand yen every day and you're all good. Same goes for the JR Rail Pass. That's half the benefit of getting the JR Rail Pass. You don't need to worry about using ticket machines all the time. And you can get this for 500 yen at pretty much any ticket machine across Japan. I think for another few hundred yen you get your name written on it as well. I haven't done that because I'm cheap. I would strongly urge first-time travellers coming to Japan to get a SIM card or a portable Wi-Fi so you have the internet with you, mainly just so you can use Google Maps. It is the main way that I and most foreign travellers get around Japan. All the train times and all the bus times are input into it seamlessly. Honestly, without Google Maps, I don't think I'd even be here now.
A lot of the train stations, tube stations, have free Wi-Fi, so you can always just hop on your internet there without having bought a SIM card. And then even when you're on the train as well, the trains could often have free Wi-Fi. But again, he's right. The more sensible thing is to get a SIM card or local SIM or eSIM, and then you have internet access. But again, these are all things that require money. So you shouldn't go to Japan or really anywhere without at least money to cover the basics.
Probably be lost in a forest somewhere, scrounging for berries. Yeah. As somebody who travels around Japan quite a lot, I've found that this isn't an issue at all. I think you'll have no problems with accommodation, whether you're using hotels, Airbnb, or even staying at a traditional Japanese inn. That's a lie, there might be one issue. If you're lucky enough to have a public bath or a hot spring built into your accommodation, you'll find that they're segregated by male and female, and sometimes they're poorly labelled as to which one is which.
They're poorly labelled if you don't know the Japanese characters for male and female. So the Japanese character for male got a square top or square kind of field looking thing, and then it's got the power kanji at the bottom of that. The woman one, just think of it a bit like somebody who has their legs crossed. I know it's very stereotypical and a bit sexist, but legs crossed one is the woman's one. That's how you can remember the kanji for man versus woman.
Could end in spectacular disaster and lots of awkward conversations with hotel staff. So what I would encourage you to do, just because not only do public baths use it, but also toilets across Japan, they sometimes only have kanji characters in male and female, especially at smaller bars and restaurants. So I would actually encourage you to learn those two characters,
exactly,
male and female.
See?
They're probably the only two characters you'll ever need to know. Better still, you can impress all your friends and family at your next birthday party when you whip out a pen and pretend to know how to write lots of Japanese, giving the momentary illusion that you are a genius with extensive cultural knowledge. I mean, for that reason alone, it's definitely worth it. As somebody who eats out, more than they probably should, I tend to find in the bigger restaurants this isn't an issue. You will find English menus, or even then just menus with pictures on that you can point at. Typically, the smaller the bar or restaurant and the further out into the countryside,
less likely they'll speak English.
You will find English. And in the terrifying event there's neither English nor photos you can desperately point at, you are going to have to wing it. Now, I did make a video a few months ago talking about nightlife etiquette and dining out etiquette. However, the most important phrase and thing in that video is the phrase osusume wa. Osusume wa means, what do you recommend? If you point at the menu and say osusume wa.
Yeah, but if you say osusume wa, which means what do you recommend, recommend, and you have allergies, and they recommend you something that has an allergy, that's going to be a problem. For those who have allergies, please learn the words for whatever your allergies are, and then say nashi, which means without. So whatever your allergy is, so say it's nuts, natsu nashi, or natsu allergy. They'll understand hopefully that you have a nut allergy, just because it's really important for those people who have food allergies. I don't have any, but I know for other people it can be a real issue. So make sure you learn those basic phrases to help you if you're going to need to talk about your allergies.
Typically, the staff will probably laugh in surprise, chuckle in surprise first. That is the only Japanese phrase that you know, and then they will try and do their best to explain what it is before you enthusiastically order it. Unless, of course, you're a vegetarian and the specialty is pork, in which case you can just point at yourself and say vegetarian, because fortunately the word for vegetarian in Japanese is vegetarian. It's kind of like
very similar.
and that's
Vegetarian.
another really useful point for dining out in Japan. Many foods, the words themselves, are gairaigo, or foreign borrowed words.
Not all of them.
Take for example beef, chicken and pork. For beef you can say beefu. For pork you can say porku. For chicken you can say chicken. And for horse you can say Alright, there's a handful of exceptions, but you get the general idea. Take fruit for example. Orange is orenji. Banana is banana. Apple is apuru. And cherry is again, some exceptions. The only other two words you really need to know are beer, which is biru, and whiskey, which is whiskey.
This is a lot of words that he's throwing at you. You probably have to watch this video multiple times. The other thing you can do is just download an app to translate from English to Japanese. That would be really useful. Then you can just point and say what it is that you want, and it will give you the Japanese translation, and then you order that, and you let the staff know that's what you're looking for. That helped me when I was in South Korea last year, so it should probably help in Japan as well. But just learn some phrases if you can as well, but it takes some time.
And there you have it. So don't be afraid to use gairaigo. Don't be afraid to try and say the word. I'm not necessarily saying try and pronounce those words in their gairaigo Japanese form. I'm saying try and just say the word in English, and hopefully the staff will catch it and understand what you're saying. You'll find in the absence of English conversational practice at school, most Japanese people do tend to lack confidence in speaking and listening to English. To talk a bit more about this, along with the essential 4 Japanese phrases you need to know before you come to Japan, I'll now hand you over to a real-life Japanese man who stole a British accent.
Even though we learn English 6 years,
I thought it was 7.
from junior high school to high school, somehow we can't.
I guess it's 6, maybe.
Or listen. So what you have to do when you
That's a lie. You guys know a decent amount of English. You just don't want to speak it. You're not comfortable speaking
when
it.
you ask if the food is good or bad, you can say, is it good? But when you say, is it good, it sounds like one word for Japanese people. So you can just take one word, one most important word in this case,
Good.
which is good. So it's like good or bad. Just take one word and they'll understand. Instead of saying, where is the toilet? You can say,
Toilet?
Where? Can you speak English? Just say English, okay? And it'll make it like really simple.
I'm sorry, you can do this, and a lot of people will be understanding, but it comes across as a little bit rude. If you just learn a few phrases, it can go a long way. Or again, using an app to help you translate. But he's right, this can help. It can help in pretty much any country, but they won't necessarily like you for it, but they'll help you.
They'll get you. So there are only 4 phrases that you have to know when you come to Japan. And
actually, what are these 4 phrases going to be? Oikura desu ka, which is how much is it? What else? Oikura desu ka is the only one that I can think of. I'm hungry.
that will get you by. First one is konnichiwa, and that's like hello, as everyone knows. But second one is I'm sorry or excuse me.
Okay.
That is sumimasen. And then thirdly is thank you, which is arigato. Not like arigato, arigato is just say it flat or with the facial expression of thank you, of course. Lastly, what you have to know is when you don't understand, when you don't know things, you can say
wakarimasen, wakaranai, wakarimasen, shirimasen, or shiranai. Wakarimasen is probably what he's going to say.
wakarimasen. And that means I don't know or I don't understand. So these are 4 phrases, that useful phrases that you might be want to use, what you might want to use when you come to Japan.
So some useful communication strategies from Ryotaro there. One thing I'd like to add is that whilst Japanese people tend to be pretty shy and pretty reserved, they're also extremely helpful and selfless in the event you need some help or assistance. Never be afraid to ask somebody on the street or at a convenience store for help if you need it. In the past, I've had shop staff stop working, stop what they're doing, and draw me an elaborate map of where I need to go. And don't be surprised if some shop staff even stop working altogether and like escort you down the street.
This is not even a lie. I've had this multiple times when I lived in Japan. And in fact, the last time I went to Japan in 2019, I was looking for the community center where I'd volunteered for 6 months because it's been a couple of years since I've been back there and I forgot the route. And I asked a random woman where it was in the local area. Considering I'm not at all looking like I'm Japanese, but I asked her in Japanese. I asked her in Japanese where the community center was, and then she explained the route. But then she had her son, who was probably between the age of 6 and 11, escort me to the community center. I'm sorry, you don't know me from Adam and you just let your son escort me to the community center? I was shocked. Although I've had lots of politeness from Japanese people, but again, I almost always speak to them in Japanese. I don't speak to them in English, and I think that makes a difference because then they're willing to maybe go above and beyond. But even if you speak to them in English, I think some of them will help you. But it's amazing how many times people would walk out of their way. I'm talking 5, 10, 15 minutes out of their way to get me to the place that I was going to. And I just thought this would never happen in London or pretty much any other country. But in Tokyo, this was in Tokyo, in busy Tokyo at times, people did that for me. I don't know. There's a level of, I don't know what you call it. I won't say humanity, but consideration and courteousness in Japan that I've experienced that's frankly bewildering, but very, very great to have experienced and rewarding. There have been a few issues here and there. If you want me to talk about the issues that I've experienced in Japan, drop a comment in the comment section. I'll do a whole video about issues I had in Japan. Overall, an amazing experience.
It's happened to me numerous times over the years. When it happens, you feel incredibly guilty, but yeah, don't be surprised when it does. People here are surprisingly selfless, and that's one of the best things about Japan. Just make sure you carry a bit of paper so somebody can draw you an elaborate map. I guess that's as good a reason as any to get a Dribbble notebook. Yeah, Dribbble. So I hope these quick tips have been useful. If you're travelling to Japan and wondering how much it's going to cost, you can check out our video, How Expensive Is It to Travel Japan?
Alright, so that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you want to see me react to his video about how much it costs to travel in Japan, let me know. Everything he said was in line with what I had said at the beginning of my video and throughout the video. I don't think there's much else to add. It's relatively easy to get around Japan, especially the major cities. If you're in the countryside, it's going to be harder. So learn as much Japanese as you can, make friends or acquaintances as much as you can, be polite and respectful, and just be aware of other people's time and effort they're putting in to help you. That's about it from me. If you want to see more about my experiences in Japan, let me know. Drop a comment in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and catch you in the next one. Peace.